Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Lost Like Mike. I am your host, Mike Gonzalez. We're trying this new Wednesday night thing, recording the episodes on Wednesday nights. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hanging out, dropping by, visiting. Thank you for the messages at lostlikemike@gmail.com. I'll tell you what, this weekend, at the start of the weekend, my wife says, hey, I don't know when to tell my daughter, my 9-year-old, that her procedure's on Tuesday. And I said, what are you talking about? Yeah, the one we've been talking about for months, she says, where she gets put under again. She has to get an MRI, and this full body MRI. And I remember, I don't know if I'm sure I talked about it on the show, but it was a whole ordeal. I took off of work. I hung out with her. It was so hard. I didn't like her being, put under for that long of a period. But we knew back then that, she probably was going to have to do it again eventually. And what happened was, they said they took pictures of certain parts, like half of her, like her legs and different things. And they said soon after, they were like, oh, we need this other half. And we were like, do you know, like how much it took to get this first procedure done, and how much of a toll it took on not only my daughter, but also just the anxiety of being, if you're a parent, right? If you have kids and you have to watch them get, poked and prodded and put to sleep in front of you, it's pretty devastating. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to deal with, Anytime you're knowingly putting your child in harm's way, even though they say, well, we're experts and we all this kind of stuff. I mean, Joan Rivers died with doing a routine procedure, because of complications caused by the, anesthesia or whatever. That's just conjecture. I don't know if that's true, but I said it on a podcast, so it must be true. So she says, I don't know when to tell her, and I'm not a big fan of withholding things, but I am a fan of approaching it and trying to be at least, tactful. And so I was like, so when is this happening? And she's like, at the end of this weekend. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's going to happen on Tuesday. And I don't know, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. My daughter starts panicking, her bottom lip starts quivering, and she's expressing her anxiety. The funny thing, not the funny thing, but she wasn't scared of having the procedure done, being in the MRI machine or any of that stuff. She didn't like the taste in her mouth when she woke up. She didn't like the nausea when she woke up. And she didn't like the way they approached putting the IV in, the way that they administered the drug. She wasn't afraid of being asleep or going under. Those are all things I'm afraid of, and I didn't want to project my fears onto her, so I just dealt with her. So I was like, so what are you worried about, And she's like, oh, I don't. And so my wife was telling my daughter, like, we'll take like a candy or something so that you can, when you wake up, you can eat that and, get rid of the taste and all this kind of stuff. But another aspect of it was, I'm being told in my mind, I'm being told during the weekend prior to it happening. So it's not like I can call up my job and say, yo, I can't, because I make the schedule, right? So I've already spread it as thin as I can and put it where everybody has to be. So it's not like I can just take off. And theoretically I could take off, but it would be happening. It's happening that morning that I'm supposed to be returning. And that we're all supposed to be returning to work. So it's like, it would be off the books, and it'd be like calling people on their weekend. And anyway, long story short, I just couldn't. And not only that, I'm performing the night before. I get off at 1 a.m. I won't get home till 2. They were getting up at 4 to get ready because they had to be showing up at the hospital to check in by 6. And we live in another town. So anyway, but my daughter's been going through procedures of one sort or another since she was 6 months old. And I remember the first time I was in pretty good shape, and we were out in Houston to do the procedure. And I was eating all of my emotions, and just my hair was turning white, instantly, like just over that course of that weekend, or that time period, that time off that I was there. Now it's no different. I still have the same anxieties, the same it's funny because she was already under by, they were already back there by 8 a.m. And it was for hours and hours that this was going on. But, my wife did a good job keeping me posted and updated, and I wasn't in the dark at any point. But we got home later that evening, I home from work and them home for the day. And I still have residual, like, displaced anxiety that I can't shake. It's like I was just having dinner and watching TV, and my hands were clammy, and I was like, what am I stressing about? What am I, like, I couldn't shake it. Like, I hate to call it like post-traumatic stress, as if I can compare it to anybody's trauma. I can't. I'm just saying it's indicative of that. I was basically not in any danger in that given moment, but yet I was feeling this residual displaced, fear or like anxiety, but it was palpable, and I was thinking, where is this? It has to be some sort of, extension of not having a place for it to go. You know what I mean? Sometimes emotions are that way, like I was talking about having all that anxiety, like the sadness watching those shows end and all this. And I think I told this story on the last episode. If I didn't, it was probably because I was kind of, not sure how to tell the story without being a little like silly, embarrassed of it. You know what I mean? Because it was, but I was joking with my wife. I walked in and I had all, and I didn't know I was storing all this sadness in me, right? And I there was a picture on this leaflet flyer of Joe Biden. It's so stupid. And I go, oh, look, it's your best friend. Because my wife is not a fan of Joe Biden. I mean, I think the whole political circus is a joke. And I can't even get into it. Like, I have no patience for it, whatever. But I don't have a dog in the fight, basically. But she kind of does. She just is not a fan of that dude. And I said, oh, it's your friend. And she says, shut up, Joe Biden's your dad. And I was just trying to be silly. And I was going to say, Edie, that's fucked up. My dad's dead. My dad passed away, right? I was going to say something like that to like make her feel bad and whatever. But I started saying the words and I started to choke up. Like I really felt this, surge of emotion. And I started to say it, and I said, you know what? I can't even make the joke to you. I told her, I said, I'm sorry, but whatever, haha. Like I played it off and I shut it down, and and she caught the hint, right? That she shouldn't have made, like, that joke was not, it didn't hit right or whatever. But I mean, I was just trying to. I'm not going to get mad about a Joe Biden joke, right? You know what I'm saying? But my point of saying that story was that it's like that Super Bowl Budweiser commercial or whatever, fill in the blank sad commercial, where you start getting sad and you're like, I'm not sad about seeing some damn puppies on a TV commercial. Like, this is not real. I'm not really getting sad in this moment. I was super melancholy the other day because I had finished watching Northern Exposure, the series. I went back and watched the whole series because I watched several episodes during the 90s, and it played a larger role in who I was becoming. K-Bear and Chris in the Morning and talking about Kierkegaard and it piqued my interest in trying to find out about philosophy and psychology and metaphysics, and just it opened up my mind to a lot of these different things, because in my mind I felt like if I could be in that sort of situation where that kind of dialogue really existed, I would be. It seemed cool. It's kind of like that sort of, and don't judge me on this one, but it was when I was in college, the first time I was living in Austin, and I was having conversations with different people, and it felt like when you met the right kind of people and they had a bit of wit to them, and you could kind of go back and forth for a couple lines, it was kind of fun, to have an intellectual conversation of any sort of degree with people. And I don't know, that show kind of kicked that off for me. It sort of made me feel like that was a reality that existed somewhere on this earth, and that there was more to life than just, hanging out. And you could think past go. Anyway, but I only watched a certain number of seasons when I was young, and going back and watching these, and then getting to the final season, and then there was definitely a sense of melancholy when it was over. It felt like I closed the chapter on not only rewatching the shows, but sort of it took away a lot of the guesswork of like, I wonder how things turned out for some of these characters, you know. Weird choices. I never would have guessed it would have went that direction. It was weird, but I've recently mentioned on the show how I have like a bunch of shows that I was watching, and on Paramount Plus, and I didn't have the code for a while because we were on a family plan with somebody else, and they had the code for that one. We have it for like whatever. Anyway, I built up some shows. I was stockpiling them, and so I was watching the last episodes of a lot of the season for a lot of shows, and it just feels like over the past couple of days, everything was the last show of a series, or the last show of a season, and the cliffhangers or whatever were all sort of a running theme of being like closure or the end of something, and I felt like it's just too much of that to deal with. It's like I want to clear the palette, maybe like watch a comedy or something. So if you can suggest a good comedy, I know that there's a new show, which, by the way, look, I'm not going to talk smack about, and it's sort of hacky to talk about how bad Madam Web is, but I sincerely attempted to watch it, and I couldn't do it. I could not physically. I couldn't watch it, and maybe I missed something that, like, maybe somebody can comment or like message me at lostlikemike@gmail.com and tell me how long I'd have to sit into the movie before I could be like hooked or like want to stick around, but I couldn't. I could not physically bring myself to watch, and I fast forward, like I ran towards the end of the movie, and it felt like it got dumber, like I didn't think it could be stupider or like less entertaining, or like I didn't think it could upset me more. And I saw 2 seconds or maybe 5 seconds, and I said, oh no, it even got worse. And so I just had to stop it. I feel bad, and it's very difficult to make a movie. It's very difficult to tell a story. I get it. It's not like I make, Peabody material here. All I'm saying is, and I think I would have given it a grain of salt had the main actress not like trash her own work like on every outlet she could. And I used to be a big fan of. I am a big fan of hers, but anyway, I'm not going to get in the weeds with all that. But I'm just saying, I tried, and it was garbage, like on a level that I could not have anticipated. Sometimes I think that people are hard on certain genres of movies, and I really wanted to be like it was okay, but I just couldn't. Anyway, I need a good comedy to shake off all this other, sad juice that I've just been wallowing in or sort of inadvertently finding myself swimming in. But yeah, so it's just Um, I talked about my son having co-signing on a loan with him to get a vehicle. It's so weird. I was recently thinking about what it takes to be a good parent. I'll tell you a story. I find myself like I'm not very good at social media. No surprise here. All right. I don't post enough on anything. But I often find myself going on like Facebook just to get mad. I don't like that about myself. I want to check in on friends and family and not have it upset me. But for some reason, every time I click on it, it's almost like I open it up just to be angry. And I tell you this, hopefully some of y'all feel this or can relate to it or understand where I'm coming from. This one guy, and I love him very much. God bless him wherever he's at. He made one simple comment on Facebook, and it got under my skin to such a level that I could not shake it, to the point where I'm even thinking about it even as I'm telling you the story. Some people write things just to elicit some sort of reaction. I don't think that's what this was, perhaps. But the comment that he made was, I'll paraphrase ever so slightly, but pretty much he said, they could never take me away from my kid. I'm embarrassed for anyone who's allowed their kid to be taken away. It would never happen to me, right? Or lost their relationship with their kid, something to that effect. And my first thought was, that's sweet. You love your kid and you're wanting to express that. I get it. But just the sheer naivety, if that's your comment, if that's really what you think, then I never would wish it on you. I would never want you to find out what it is to have somebody rip the dynamic away from you as a parent with your child. I fought tooth and nail. Even to this day, I fight every day to have a relationship with my son. But is it the relationship that I would have anticipated or dreamt of, or even as a young father to say, nobody's ever going to take my son away from me? Because believe me, when everything was beginning, I had that same mentality. Nobody will ever, there's nothing you can do. Because the truth of the matter is there's only two categories you're going to find yourself in. Either one, you're the parent who discovers that you love your child more than yourself, and you're going to do what's best for that child, and you're not going to put him through a bunch of shit. Or two, you're one of those cats from the Amber Alerts, like, whatever description of a vehicle with your license plate, and you ran off because you're trying to take your kid out. Because the unfair truth is that we live in most states, especially here in Texas, the court system will favor the mom. I mean, you have to prove that the mother is on all drugged up and not trying to rehabilitate, or that they're a threat physically or mentally to the child, and you can prove it, and not seeking help. Other than that, they're going to take your child, son. They're just going to take it. The mother's going to get it. I don't care how bad of a mother. I don't care how trash. That's just a fact, Jack. And I mean, you can fight all day long, and that's admirable. Believe me, I mean, I fought the law. I fought the court system. I did some back end deals with the lawyer, just to, because, you know, I exploited different things that were put in front of me. But inevitably, you come to terms with the fact that if you really love that child and you don't want to put them through nothing but nightmares and nothing but BS, you're gonna, you know, release the reins and just find your way back in. But I mean, the ignorance of that statement, the sheer audacity of that comment. Like, you can save your embarrassment for the stupid crap that you know, for just, if that's the level of ignorance that your posts have, that just save your embarrassment for that, for yourself, for that, you know, because, and I get it, you know, you love your child and you want the world to know it, but do it not at the expense of people who have been put through the ringer by a woman scorned. I mean, I think that even if you have the most unconditional, deepest love for your child, it's going to manifest itself in something less selfish than hell or high water, nobody's taking you away from me. I would be listen, I'll end somebody if it came between them hurting my child, without hesitation. But having lived through that ordeal of, you know, because let's face it, that's what we're talking about. When somebody says, you know, if somebody tried to take my child away from me, you know, we're not talking about like a kidnapper. We're not talking about, you know, sex traffickers that are trying to steal your kid and take him across the world. That's not the sentiment that's being expressed by saying, if somebody tried to stand between me and the relationship with my, you know, you're talking about your significant other, you know, and your relationship severing with your partner, and the question of who gets custody of your child. That's what we're talking about. If that's the case, then, you know, you have to make some real serious rationalities. Like, you have to find out if this person is, you know, if they truly have the best interest of the child at heart, or if they're just trying to hurt you through the child. And sometimes that's true too. But I mean, I remember being in the court of law and showing that I was, you know, I was occupied. Like, I mean, I was employed, and I was, I had a house, I had a residence, I had everything, you know, ability for childcare, for, you know, I had spent every living moment with my boy except outside of work, you know, anyway. And I was establishing some things with the judge, and the judge was like, we don't need to hear any of that. And it's like, so what are we doing here? Did you just want to give your verdict and let me get back to what I'm doing, you know? It was just a kangaroo court. It was a joke. And I knew the bailiff, and he was telling me how that's just par for the course. That's just the way it is. Don't take it personal. It's not that your case is weak. It's that the judges, they favor the mom. This young lady was on TikTok, and I think it was TikTok, or maybe it might have been a short on YouTube or something, but she was mentioning the statistics regarding children that are raised by single mothers versus single fathers. And I can't speak to whether that's true or not, but I can say that it did make a lot of sense. It seemed to ring true. But anyway, if you can't mend the fence, if you can't have two parents that can get their act together, the things that I did to get back in favor with his mom, the things that I did, I mean, never missed one child support payment, paid for their cell phone for 10 years. I mean, just the medical bills, whatever I could do, school supplies, outside of the clothes and whatever I could contribute. But just the belittling, the trash talk, the double standards. I mean, just the things that you'll do to put up with, to stay within the orbit of the child. I mean, yeah, that's the true exhibition. That's the true showing of love, of But I recently was thinking about that. I was talking to my son about, and I was telling him, not about any of this. We were talking about some financial decisions that he's been making recently and the things that he's going through. And where you tell somebody, like, if you do this, then the repercussions will be these things. Like, if you make this choice, this bad thing's going to happen. No, but I really want to do this, and I think this will work, and if I do this, and then, okay. And so finally I told him today, I said, you know what? As a father, you have to understand, I've made these mistakes. And although it pains me to see it happen to you, I can only tell you, and you're either going to learn it from me or you're going to learn it the hard way. And I wish that I could say that I didn't personally have to learn it the hard way, but I did. So all I can do is tell you my truth and pray for the best for you, and tell you, and to help you mitigate through these choices. And it's, I don't agree with the way that his mother's dealing with him, but I have no power over her or of their decision making or what's going to happen. And I don't mean to be vague about that, but again, that's not my story to tell. And I don't want to seem like I'm bashing on any particular person, without giving them the opportunity to defend themselves. But I will say that, that stubbornness, perhaps that is me coming through him. But, it's so painful to watch, because you want to tell him, no, don't do that. Like, just straight up don't. No, I don't have to give you reasons why. I just don't, because it's going to fail, you know. But anyway, I don't know if that's bad parenting or good parenting. I really don't, because, you know, you can only explain it to the best of your abilities. I can't do anything else. And perhaps I'm not spelling it out well enough, but anyway, I was at my day job, and this one employee, this team member of mine, was sitting with me and was talking about anxiety, or talking about dealing with this particular phenomena that she was feeling. And I said, it's like this. And I told her an example of what happened to me. And she said, oh my God, that is it. That is what it feels like, or that happens to me. And I was reminded of the construct, or the purpose of this podcast is exactly that idea. And I said, you see right there, like, you expressed something that you deal with. I gave you an example of my life, of something I'm going through. And you don't feel as crazy as you did 5 seconds ago, because that happens to you too. So you're not alone. You're not the only one having, you know, sometimes it used to feel that way, that, you know, that whatever I was going through was particular to me, or I was somehow not handling it correctly, because these bad things were happening to me, as you know, as a direct result. But anyway, that was a good experience for me, to be reminded that, you know, none of us are an island to ourselves, as it were. At least in that moment, I felt like that my sharing of my experience was helping somebody. So, and, you know, conversely, it was helping myself. So anyway, I got an email the other day. I got an email from my alma mater, the university, Texas A&M, San Antonio. I graduated from there in 2020. I was a COVID grad. They didn't have a commencement ceremony. What happened was, they said, because of COVID, they did like a commencement parade through the campus, where people drove by, you know, holding signs or something. But they said, we're going to have to wait, because at the time they didn't know, like, nobody knew how long it was going to last, or what. They never dealt with a global pandemic before. So it was like, they were like, in the fall, we'll come back and we'll do a full ceremony. And so I didn't even participate in the parade. I didn't do the drive-by. You know, I couldn't leave work at the time. So, excuse me, shortly after when things started to go, things didn't come around as quickly as they felt that they were gonna. They just said, you know, we're not gonna have it after all. Sorry. So I bought the cap and gown. I had my ropes and my accolades, and I never took it out of the package. I never put it on. And the difficult thing about that was that I went to junior college. I went to community college and got an associate's degree. And we had a commencement ceremony. My parents couldn't go. My father was in the senior home battling Alzheimer's and dementia, and my mom couldn't go. Nobody, like my wife went, and her mom went, but my mom, I told her, well, I'm going to get my bachelor's. I'm going on to get my next degree, and you have to go to that. And, when you graduate I graduated from community college. I was, it's very similar to your high school. The same color cap and gown. At least it was for me. And, there's a certain stigma to graduating from a junior college. It was good. It was great. I was proud of myself. I had completed the 2-year program while maintaining my hours at work and doing everything. And I graduated with honors, and I was very proud. But it got me through it. You know what I mean? Doing all the work and all of the sacrifices. I was like, it sort of gave credence to it. And so when I went to get my bachelor's, I remember going to the gift shop, to the bookstore, and they had this mannequin, with it was black, cap and gown and the tassels and the whole bit. And I was like, man, that's what it's about right there. That's what I got to get. That's what I want. I want that. That's my future. I want that. And periodically throughout my time there, I would drop by the bookstore, especially around graduation times, and I would just be like, that's it. That's what I want. Oh, that's what I want. And I took pictures of it. I was really, geeking out of it. And listen, anybody who tells you that college ain't, worth nothing and screw this and screw that. First of all, if you're willing to put in the time and effort, like I got scholarships and I got, grants from the government to go. The money's there if you're willing to put the effort. I didn't pay a penny out of pocket, just time and energy, But anybody who tells you that it's not, perhaps in a sense that they're right. If you have a vision for your future and you know what you want to do and you have a certain level of competence in your particular field, then that's fine. I studied business administration, so I had been putting into practice a lot of the principles of management and leadership and things I had been learning along the way with just years of experience. But that being surrounded by people that cared about learning, having conversations about things and pushing ideas, and I had a concentration on entrepreneurship, so I was surrounded by young and old businessmen and women that talked about inventions and concepts and products that they were and creating them and marketing them, and it wasn't so abstract, the idea of like doing something with your life. It was you were talking to people that were doing things to make it happen, and I'm not talking only about networking, but also about learning about practical knowledge about business and about how to make money, or how to to use your time wisely in terms of investing and but you just, I get it. You could go hang out with people at a bank, figure it out. I guess you can, you know, YouTube that stuff, and I guess you can get a certain level of education. But I met some great professors and some great independent thinkers and I dedicated my time to those studies. And I don't think that people that I can tell you by living in the streets and living in jobs and doing, you do learn it over time. But you're also testing yourself and pushing yourself. You're giving yourself assignments, and you're giving yourself these lesson plans and structure that you have to follow, and you have to have discipline to do. And so it's an exercise in commitment that is, I think, underrated. So I know great grades, they may seem arbitrary to you or to others. I mean, people can just hang out and get degrees. I get it. But I chose to work hard. I chose to figure out what it took to do the projects correctly, to live up to the standards of the different professors. So, I mean, I graduated summa cum laude with 3.9 GPA, and I'm proud of that because I worked over 40 hours a week, and I did shows every week, and I did sometimes a third job, doing a gig economy during some very hard times. And I had made it with, I was, making time for my children and my wife and figuring it all out. And so when I went to my job, my new job, where they valued that, they know that if they give me a project, they give me things that need to get done. Not only do I have creative and alternative solutions than what they can come up with, I also have the fortitude to get the project done with the care and commitment to do it to the highest standard that I can possibly do it. And I've proven that by the achievement of graduating and under that with that care and dedication for excellence. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. What if you would have? Why don't you just apply those principles to, creative projects on independently? And I feel like I have. You know what I mean? Like writing books or music and producing this podcast where I come and talk to everybody, whatever. I mean, anyway, it's just there's values to it. So flashback. Anyway, I've gotten into the weeds on that one, but the point is, they sent me an email the other day and they said, "Listen, we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of being a COVID graduate, and we're contemplating having a commencement ceremony for the 2020 graduates, where we would go back and we would allow for there to be a ceremony where you walk the stage and you do the whole bit." And they're like, "If this would mean something to you, tell us, and if we could do it. We're just in the talking about it stage, so it may not happen or whatever." And I didn't think about it for a long time. I hadn't thought about it, but rehashing it and revisiting the idea. I can't express how much it would really mean to do it. I think it would be huge for me. It's just in terms of, on one level, closure. It's like you dream about, or you work towards, and you work towards something, and then when it goes out without an explosion, or like it culminates not into a climax, but just it sputters out into like, well, here's your diploma, and there it went. And I'm reminded of this conversation that it was more like a lesson that we had in high school. My teacher, Miss Hall, I believe her name was Miss Hall, and she was talking to a bunch of seniors in her class, these young 17, 18-year-old kids that think they know everything, and she's telling them, I know, she's like, I know many of you don't think that high school graduation is a big deal. And she said, I'd like to talk to you about pomp and circumstance, right? It was, I guess. And she was saying, and it stuck with me for all these years. I never stopped thinking about the idea of recognizing whatever it is. If it took you time, if it took you effort, if it was a hard-fought victory, if it was something that you worked very hard for, and you achieved it, then you need to recognize it and give it credence and give it, hold it to a higher regard by separating it from every other stupid day that you're around. That it may seem dumb to be sitting there for 2 hours or whatever, waiting for the ceremony to end, and you're hearing the music and the marching, and you're walking, and you're bored because these people are giving speeches. But all of that is to say that today is different than yesterday, it's different than tomorrow. Today we recognize that you achieved this, that you did it. And she said, never take for granted that that's what this is. That this achievement is not to be taken lightly. And it made me proud. It made me think, wow, like, I guess that does make sense. And so I value it more than I thought it would. And some people are like, yeah, it's all good. It's about getting this piece of paper, and, which helps me get a better job, which gets me more money, which, is what it's all about. Blah, blah, blah. But it's really, to me, although I found that to be true, that comes with finding the right job. Go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Go where you're recognized for what you are, not, for what they think you are. And so it's two-sided. Like, you know what I mean? You can have all the degrees in the world and still not be valued, right? And you can have no degrees and be held up, and recognized for your creativity. Believe it, all those guys, when you talk about like Steve Jobs and your these different, I just keep hearing Mark Zuckerberg and your Tesla guy. Anyway, they all went to a certain level of schooling. They all learned, the Wharton School of Business or these Ivy League places before they left. They all had a fundamental education in how to cultivate their fortunes, how to manipulate, and how to, to make other people work for them and exploit their ideas. And they all did. They all do. about how to build a team and 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 use the collective creativity of others to make yourself look good and to take their ideas and monetize them. And it goes on. It sounds cynical, but the reality of it is that's what they do. Any successful person is not a singular. They may say they may be a visionary in the sense that they can see the value in their ideas and in the ideas of others, but 100%, even musicians, artists, they are visionaries because they know how to build a team to take their visions and bring their ideas into fruition. Somebody like Taylor Swift, or somebody like, I was trying to think of his name and I'm not going to remember his name either, but it's all about taking these ideas and building a team, to like the Yeezy shoes or the outfits, and you build a team that can market and can make the business end of it legit, and that's how you do. But anyway, all those people that say that they don't need a degree hired a bunch of people with degrees to do the dirty work, but just knew how to do it, how to manipulate it, how to hire people to do their bidding. So if you want advice, if you don't want to go to college, okay, take this quote. Never be the smartest person in the room, right? They're giving you the blueprint. They're telling you that they're not the smartest person in the room, right? They are facilitators that allow others. They'll say something like, a toilet that flushes itself. You never have to touch a button. It just senses, and I know this exists already, and I'm not being silly. I'm just saying. And then the engineers get to it. Present me some ideas on how we can make this work. And then they're on the news saying, I had this great idea on how to dig a tunnel under the city. And I've got all these brilliant people are behind it, just doing it, making it happen. But this mouthpiece is saying how their brilliance is what's bringing all these things out. Anyway, those smarter people, they did go to school. They did study the ways of achievement, Anyway, I'm saying all this and I can't think of several of these people's names, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm just, saying I'd be really stoked to do a commencement. I already told my mom that she's in her 80s, and I said she has to go if we do it, because I promised her I'd graduate, and I did it, and there was no walk across. So she got off without having to go, because I told her when I got my associates, you're going to have to go. And she said, all right, I will. If you complete it, I'll go. And then I was like, COVID sucks. And my father passed, and my brother passed, and all these people passed away. And and also, like, my daughter never, would get to see her dad walk across the stage and have it matter. My son took a year off of going to school. I would want him to see, that I did it. And because it's just an abstract concept otherwise. It's like, oh, cool, you graduated, that's great. It's same as any other day, right? Anyway. Well, I'm glad I got to check in with y'all. I'm glad I got to talk, visit with y'all. Message me at lostlikemike@gmail.com. Let me know how you're doing. Message me about show ideas and whatnot. I think this Wednesday thing should work. And I will see y'all next week. All right? Y'all take care of yourselves. Peace.